security out and look at it as a single object. Security occurs within a legal and political milieu. So we can't just say security forces need to do this. We also need to address the legal structure within which the security forces are operating, and we also need to address the political structure within which the security forces are operating. So our wrap-up panel is going to talk about security forces, the political milieu, and the legal milieu within which they're operating, and propose a potential way ahead. Right now, I'd like to introduce the Muy Conocido Colonel Retired Jay Cope from INSS up at the National Defense University, and he is the dueño of panel number 1. Jay Cope.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good morning. It's nice to see so many friends here and acquaintances from yesteryear. We're not talking about old here, we're talking about yesteryear. As you perhaps have seen, there was a piece of paper that was distributed that shows the new organization of this panel, and unfortunately our luncheon speaker, my boss, Dr. Patrick Cronin, the director of the Institute for National Strategic Studies, has a family emergency which is keeping him in Washington, so he is unable to be here. So in the spirit of great flexibility and his willingness to leap into the breach on very little notice, Ambassador Luigi Einaudi has consented to shift from the panel and become the luncheon speaker, and which we are very pleased. The institute where I work, it really has a three-part mission, which is, I think, rather important to this panel, but also rather important to this conference. I mean, we focus on trying to assess the security environment to try to best understand it and what it means. We try to develop new strategic concepts and integrated strategies to be able to deal with the complex challenges that we face. And lastly, we are very interested in advancing strategic thinking, particularly in the Department of Defense. And it's with that idea of advancing strategic thinking and assessing where we are in this hemisphere at this point in time is the focus of this sort of background session. Now, is Latin America integrating or fragmenting? I mean, that's the question that I think we are all wrestling with in various ways. And to be able to answer that question, or at least pose some thoughts about answers to that question, we have focused on three particular areas. Let's look first at the political culture. What's really happening in this hemisphere in terms of political culture? And Dr. Howard Wiarta, no small strategic thinker in his own right, is going to wrestle with that particular issue, with the question, is democracy advancing, regressing, or being redefined? And so he's going to explore the various alternative meanings to democracy that we find in this hemisphere. He has done a great deal of work in the area of democracy, trying to understand it and political culture in terms of the different cultures in this hemisphere. I think you will find his remarks very interesting. The second area is the whole macroeconomic venue. Inez Bastillo has been the director of the Washington office of the UN's Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean now for, I guess, almost 10 years, maybe a little more than 10 years. And she is one colossal strategic thinking economist. And I couldn't have thought, I mean, I'm not sure all those words really go together. Strategic thinking and economist, I'm not sure. But She has been wrestling for the commission. She has been wrestling with issues like what is really happening in this hemisphere, and I couldn't think of a better person to speak to us here this morning on that subject. And then finally, Dr. Cesar Sarasaris, who is known to many of you. Cesar has wrestled with security issues, particularly Mexico, Central America, Colombia, but other parts of the hemisphere as well, and is very concerned about meeting the challenge that is posed by resilient criminal networks. And our governments today really prepared to do that. And so that was the challenge I gave him, to lay out an approach and thinking on this particular subject. And we hope that through all three strategic thinkers, and truly these three panelists are strategic thinkers, we hope to challenge you all, and we hope to have a good dialogue. They will all speak for about 20 minutes, and then we will have a good hour, I hope, for a question and answer session. So we look forward to that. Thank you. Our first speaker will be Dr. Howard Wearter. Howard?